In this video, we're going to learn how to set up our React Native app. Now, the quickest way and the easiest way to do this is to head over to the React Native docs at reactnative.dev and find the project setup page. So from here on the home page, I can click Get Started, and there's a link here in this little blue banner that talks about environment setup. So I'm going to click into that. This all may have changed by the time you're seeing this video. If so, you'll just have to dig around and find the development environment setup instructions, but you'll find it. So you have a couple of options on this page. It's going to give you instructions for using the Expo CLI Quick Start or the React Native CLI Quick Start. We're going to go with the React Native instructions. Expo is a really cool, handy tool that works alongside React Native to sort of automate and simplify a lot of the process that goes into building a React Native app. If you're very new to React Native and you just want to get started really quick, Expo is a great tool to start with. But for this series, we're probably going to be using some libraries that cannot be supported in Expo. Expo has some limitations with the packages that you can use with it. So we're just going to go ahead and we're going to get started with this React Native CLI Quick Start. Now from here you're going to have a few more options depending on what operating system you're using. I'm using Mac. I'm going to be using the iOS simulator for this series. So these are the options that I've set up. I'm not going to go through installing all these dependencies. You go through these on your own. You may, if you've done some development in the past on your machine, you may have a lot of this stuff already set up. But just go through these sections by section. Just make sure you have all these dependencies set up. It's going to be things for Xcode, CocoaPods. If you're on a Mac, it'll be different on Windows. But where this course is going to pick up is this section down here called Creating a New Application. There is a command here that uses the npx utility that ships with npm that will let you spin up a React Native project really quickly. If you've used Create React App to create a regular React app in the past, this is pretty much the same idea. Once you run this command, it's going to download all the dependencies and set up a really nice starter project for you. So go ahead and follow this page down to this line here, and this is where we're gonna pick up in the next part of this video. So what we see here is the starter project that we created with the npx command line interface. Just take a look around and familiarize ourselves with the project structure. A couple of things to note here, a couple of interesting things about this project are, you're going to see these two directories for Android and iOS. These are going to be the directories where the actual native code, the native projects for the Android and iOS apps live that we're going to generate when we go to build our actual native apps. Now, you're not going to have to worry about these directories most of the time. Rarely, if ever, will you have to dive into the native code or the native configuration files. Most of our development for this project is going to be done in React Native in JavaScript, but it's just really good to know that these two folders are where the actual native code projects live for a React Native project. You'll see that all of the actual React Native code, this app.js, index.js, and these various configuration files, they all live in this top level directory. So app.js here is going to be the main React Native component that we're going to be dealing with. This is going to be the first component that renders when your app launches, so you can consider this to be sort of the starting point for your app. Now you'll see here, if you look at this this comment block at the top of this component, this project is configured to use a tool called Flow, which is a static type checking tool for JavaScript. And what that tool does is it helps you write cleaner, more reliable code by checking for your types ahead of your code actually being run. It's a very useful tool. I would definitely recommend that you check it out. It might be something that you find really handy. It can really help you write better code. But for the purposes of this project, I'm not going to use it because that could sort of distract us from this project. So instead, I'm gonna delete that code block, and I'm gonna go ahead and go over here, and I'm gonna get rid of the configuration file for Flow, just so we don't have a lot of unnecessary distraction. And because I'm not going to be using Flow, I'm going to convert the declaration of this function to a more traditional JavaScript function declaration. So I'm just going to replace all this with this. And then when I export this, this is currently being exported down here from this module. So I am going to put my default export here. And now you'll see that I have a pretty run-of-the-mill React function declaration. So I'm exporting my main component app from this file. Now, if I look at my package.json file here, you'll see that I have several scripts I can run. In order to get my project running on I'm on a Mac, so I'm going to be using the iOS simulator to run my code locally. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to open up the terminal here in VS Code, and I'm just going to type yarn run iOS to run this script here. And what this is going to do, you'll see in the terminal here, it's going to load up all that native code that needs to be compiled to run on my iOS simulator. And you'll see, if we have a look at my simulator here, you'll see it's already working to build this code. Now, this might take a while the first time that you build this native project, but it'll get faster each subsequent time you use it once a lot of that source code is compiled. So you can see that our project has finished compiling and it's now running in our iOS simulator here. If you're brand new to React Native, I would highly recommend that you take a look at the source code and just familiarize yourself with these components that we're using here. Safe area view, scroll view, view, and text especially. These are very common React Native components that you're going to see are imported up here from React Native itself. You're going to use these components in just about every React Native screen that you create. You'll also see that some of these components are imported from a new app screen library from React Native. So I would recommend if you're brand new to React Native, just have a look at this source code and then compare it to the app you see in your simulator here, just to kind of make sure you understand what's going on, wrap your head around it. But for our purposes in this tutorial, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to remove everything that's inside this scroll view tag, everything down to this next closing tag here. And I'm just going to remove that. And I'm going to go ahead and remove these styles too down here in this style sheet declaration, because we're not going to be using these styles for our project. And then I can go ahead, I can remove this import block here. And these yellow squiggles are from ESLint, a linting plugin that I'm using to check my JavaScript code. It's just this squiggle is telling me that this this component's empty. It won't be for long, so I'm not going to worry about that. And then this is telling me that these two components are not being used, but I will use those again shortly. So now that we have a fresh project set up, we're ready to start writing our code and getting our WordPress content displayed in our React Native app.